Good evening, everyone. Listen, hit the start button and invite someone, share it, and ask someone to come on and join us. Or you can have some friends join us regarding our upcoming talk tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking from the book of Esther and how out of that book, we birthed the program here over 10 years ago, and how that program is still impacting the lives of many even today. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Listen, next Tuesday, Prophet Remington will be with us. Every third Tuesday is Prophetic Tuesday. So you want to join us then. Also, want to remind you that on the last Tuesday of the month is Marriage and Ministry. And on that Tuesday, we're going to be talking to married couples about how they navigate the roads of ministry. Because, marriage is tough by itself, but marriage and ministry is even tougher because you have to navigate the lives of so many different people, help others with their marriages, sometimes while yours is being tested. So we want to talk about that so that you're able to see how to hang in there in the hard seasons. And every marriage is going to walk through a wilderness. Every marriage will walk through a test. So we're going to go through all of those kinds of things in our upcoming months. And listen, next month is Thanksgiving. What are you going to give God thanks for the whole month of November, a month of Thanksgiving? So get ready for the holidays. Well, let's talk about the book of Esther tonight. The book of Esther is really, really a phenomenal book for every woman to read. Her life offers an example of insight of how God can take us from humble beginnings to seats of greatness. Can I ask you a question? Does it really matter how life starts for you? Can you shift the trajectory of your life at any season? Are leaders born or are leaders made? Jesus, and God's name is never mentioned in the book of Esther. Never mentioned, but you see the sovereign hand of God. A God that establishes purpose and destiny in each one of our lives. Esther's life is a reminder that God has a plan for every one of us, no matter where we start, no matter what family we came from. When you look at people like Tyler Perry, you look at Bishop Jakes, they weren't born into family of riches, but God made them into great men. Oprah Winfrey, look at her life and how from just those small beginnings into how she's become one of the most powerful women in the world. Well, it's the same thing with Esther. And you may not reach to those heights, but what did God call you to do? And what height are you reaching for? What are you aspiring for? So when you look at the book of Esther, it's such a good book to read. And we've been working with this book probably over 10 years now as we established that Esther's Academy. We can be encouraged by the fact that it's not how we start, but more importantly, the lessons learned and how we finish in the process. The book of Esther shows us the providence of God. It also shows us how his invisible hand works behind the scenes to bring about his purpose and his destiny in our lives. The book demonstrates that God's methods vary, but God is still always in control. When you look at her life, Esther's dramatic story begins to unfold with the people of God living in exile in Persia because of their sin. The Bible records that Esther was an orphan. Her father died, and while her mother was pregnant with her, and her mother died during childbirth, she was then adopted and raised by her cousin Mordecai. Many of us know that it's like to lose a parent or sometimes lose a loved one. I know at the age of 7, I lost my mom. And I grew up without my mom being present in my life. And my dad battled with alcoholism and some other things in our lives. And so it was a tough childhood. And one of the things you'll find when you battle with things in your life, you can suffer with gender identity, spirit of abandonment, spirit of rejection. So many different areas that you can battle when you don't have a parent to train you and to grow you and to teach you. You can really struggle with purpose, destiny. You can really struggle with your identity. You can really struggle with abandonment. Why did they leave me? Why did I have to go through this? But many of us know that God never leaves us. We learn that as we walk with him. And so she was left with a void. Both of her parents are gone, being raised by her uncle Mordecai, by her cousin, who adopted her and raised her as his own. But some of you are raising family members because of excruciating circumstances, maybe a loss of a family. You've had to raise your grandchildren. Maybe your daughter went to prison or your son went to prison, and you're finding yourself having to raise your kids your grandkids instead of your own children. So things happen in life, and you had to step up and take responsibility of children that were not your own. But does it matter where you start? Does it matter where you are right now? Is it really too late to say, you know what, I'm ready to change the very trajectory of my life? I love it. I love when I can take a look at my life and see the new things that I'm adding, the new things that I'm doing, the new things that I want to do. That is so critical for each and every one of us. When you look at the palace, at the book of Esther begins, the king was entertaining as the customs were, all of the men, all of their wives. So the wives were in one room, the men were in another room, but they were entertaining. And it's also the custom that when the king would call the queen to make an appearance, that she would come. But the king and his guests were intoxicated, and the king wanted to show her beauty off, being arrogant, you know. And the thing about it, though, you could say he was just out of order. That wasn't the right thing to do. But Queen Vashti, knowing how drunk they were, refused to come. This is where the story takes a drastic turn from one way to another way, right around here. Because as much as I thought this was unfair for Vashti to be treated the way she was cast out, given a bill of divorcement, and was left out. She had to watch all of this. I began to think about the sovereign hand of God. How many of you know, no matter where you are today, that God is still working behind the scenes to make sure the promises that he made to you are being manifested? Whether you see his hand, whether you see his face, whether you have a word, but if you have a promise from God, he is working behind the scenes. And the thing about it, he created you for a purpose and a reason. And he's orchestrating your life. He's making things work on your behalf. And I want you to be able to see how he works. It was God's plan to begin to prepare Esther for this shift. How many of us be talking about evolve? Now, this is a good book, and I think I'm going to write it from this book, How to Evolve, Pivot, and Shift, because this right here is a very good teaching on that. Because remember, she came from very meager beginnings, but she evolved into a great leader, a queen, a woman of God, just greatness, just because of understanding the call upon her life, having a mentor in her life that pushed her even when she didn't want to go. This was so critical to see. So, citing her behavior that could cause a revolt in the city between the wives, she was made of an example. And this is how we see God begin to orchestrate. The king called for all the beautiful women, and because of Esther's beauty, she was picked. Now, listen, let's stay right here for just a second. I love this, okay? God is working behind the scenes. He opens a door for you. He makes a way for you. People don't understand. Looks like it's unfair for Vashti. Why is she treated like that? But remember, God knows the future, and he needed someone in place to handle what was to come. There's times in your life that God is moving you into a particular place because of the plan he knows for your future. You don't always understand. You don't always understand why God is making this move, why you're pivoting, why you have to make this quick shift or any of that. You don't understand. But when the hand of God begin to orchestrate, begin to take you through places that you don't understand, you've got to trust God. And along the way, God begins to send the help that you need. Mordecai gets the word of conspiracy to kill all of the Jews. And it comes to Esther to plead on behalf of her people. So here's what's happening now. There is something happening nationwide. This is not just something happening in the palace. All of the Jews' life is now in danger. Look at the hand of God. He already knew this was going to happen. He knew exactly what Haman was going to do. He knew the season that it would happen in. And look how God already set someone. Now, let's think for a minute. Her parents are gone. It looked like loss. It looked like hurt. It looked like disappointment. Sometimes when we lose people, we focus on the loss and not the reason. Did God allow that person to leave at that time? Because if he didn't allow them to leave, you wouldn't go into the place that God has called you. I don't believe if my mother was alive today, I would be in Pittsburgh, because I don't think my mother would stay in the cold. So I believe everything that God did kind of just orchestrated me being here. And when I look at the life of Esther, God orchestrated step by step how she would get to the palace. And in that way, he used Mordecai. Notice here, every time Israel found themselves in exile, God caused one of his own people to be in the highest level of leadership. Mordecai was around the palace. Mordecai was involved. Esther was beautiful, so she was then brought in by the eunuchs to begin to work and prepare. Now, look about her being involved, how she evolved into this wonderful woman. They put her to beauty treatments. They prepared her for her whole year. That's how the Esther's Academy was birthed out of that. How they took this girl that was not from a royal family, as we know of, but had suffered much loss. But they taught her, they trained her. She had to be taught in etiquette, how to sit at the king's table, how to dress to go to the palace, how to perform, how to speak, how to be able. They made sure that she was not left unprepared. That's what we've got to do with this generation of people, teaching our young ladies and young men how to prepare for a global mindset. When you go to a different culture, how do you handle it? When you go out to dinner, what spoons do I use? What forks do I use? What cups do I use? You know, when you get a job, having good work ethic on my job, getting to my job on time, pressing my clothes to go to work, making sure my uniform is clean, making sure my hair is done. This is all preparing our kids for the future. And so many times when I run into kids, when I go out to eat, you see kids eating with their finger, even adults that will eat. They won't use a knife and fork. They won't use certain things because they were never taught. Teaching and mentorship is critical in our lives. It's good to have good mentors. It's good to have people that can tell you and teach you and train you. It's good to be teachable. It's really important. Whether it was Moses, Daniel, or Joseph, there's always someone that God is raising up to be a deliverer for his people. Mordecai, throughout this story, was there to help and support Esther, to guide her along the way. Whose voice do you listen to? Who would you listen to help you navigate these roads of life, these different turns and detours in life? When life hits you, who can come along and say, you're going to survive it. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through. It's so important to have people around you that when life hits you hard, they can remind you, you have a promise. You're going to get up. You're going to get past it. It may take you a year. It may take you, nobody can tell you how long to grieve, how long to mourn. No, not that. But they're right there saying, come on, we're going to have dinner. We're going to go out. You're going to smile. You're going to laugh. They're right there to help you get out of those tough areas of your life. That's what Mordecai was to Esther. He never was far from her. He made sure he was always in proximity to her so he could encourage her. He could show her, he could teach her the way that she would go. Many times God will place other people in our lives for the certain timing and for certain guidance. What about you? What is it that you want to do in your life right now that you're afraid of? You know, fear is very crippling. Fear will hold you hostage, and so that you won't be able to go on and do what God's telling you to do. What is it that you're fearful of? Are you afraid to step into the new call? Are you afraid to do what God is telling you to do? Can't be afraid. Sometimes Joyce Meyer says it's like this: do it afraid. Sometimes you're going to do it until the fear lifts off of you. There are those that God has placed in your life with gifts and skills that are needed for this season. Are you ready to shift your season? Like Esther, God has created a perfect storm for her to shine. Don't worry about the storm. You see that? There's a storm getting brewing over her life. Haman is doing his thing, but God has placed her there. And Mordecai is reminding her, you're here for a purpose. You have a destiny. Perhaps you've been frustrated that you've been put on a shelf. You don't know what God is doing this. God, when are you going to use me? God, when are you going to open the door? When am I going to go into this season? How many of us are in this season of our lives asking God the when? When will this change? Can you imagine in the palace and she doesn't know when she's going to be called, because you could never go before the king until he calls you. She didn't know she would be the one chosen because there were so many pretty women and they were all preparing. So they don't know when they would be called by him to come in and be seen. It's the same way with many of us. We don't know the day or the hour when God said, today is your day. Today's your day, Dr. Galloway. Today's your day, Prophet Dora. Today's your day, Lorna. What God is saying, I see you, and today's your day. Whether you see it or not, I'm working behind the scenes to grow you, to mature you, to prepare you, to take you through places you only dreamed of. That's what he was doing. He was behind the scenes, navigating every hour, every day of her life. She didn't know that. Mordecai didn't know that. But Mordecai stayed in proximity to her so that he would always be able to encourage her when she didn't feel like it, when she didn't know what to do next. He was right there. So maybe you've been frustrated because you don't see how God is going to do this. But I came to tell you today, God is making room for you. Before the foundation of the world, God has a plan for you. He's already determined. I'm studying the book of Galatians this week. I'm into the book of Galatians, and this is something that really just kind of shook me a little bit. God takes a man called Paul, the writer of the book of Galatians, and God shows us how Paul, who once crucified the church, who once killed God's people, was now being called to be one of the greatest writers of the book. How God can just change your life. And even when Paul was traveling and he was the apostle called by God, many people didn't trust him because they knew him when. They knew him when he was a persecutor. They knew him when he was out there making mistakes. And so now that he is doing things for God, they're still keeping an eye on him. And so Paul is having to walk through a season where he is being looked at. They're questioning him. Is he really for us? Or is he really right? How do we know? Because sometimes, even when God changes your life, people haven't released your past. They don't let your past go. There's always somebody that's going to say, oh, she's really saved, or she's really doing all of that. Well, I remember her when. How many of you think about all the people that knew Esther, that little poor girl that didn't have any parents, just an orphan, but now she's sitting in the palace. She's sitting at the king's table. She's ready to be called to the king's table, but she didn't get called without preparation. How willing are you to prepare for the next season of your life? You have to understand. Mordecai was there to help her understand there was more to her than just getting up every day, getting the perfumes, getting the oils, getting ready, preparation. Every part of her process was preparing her for such a time as this. Every part of it. And that's what Mordecai said to her. Do you think maybe that you were sent here for just this reason, to be the deliverer of God's people? Do you think that just maybe all that you've gone through is going to be lessons that you will teach others regarding life? Just maybe. Just think about that for a minute. Because sometimes you go through things in life and you wonder, why did I have to go through that? Why did I have to face that? And before you know it, you realize that God allowed you to go through that so you can be a benefit, you can be a mentor, you can be a teacher, you can be a friend to someone who doesn't understand the struggle that they're in. But because you have been there, you're now able to be a help to them. So Mordecai is saying to her, stay there. And then there's this man called Haman. He didn't like the Jews. And so Mordecai is showing her, stay a course, stay right there. Because while Haman is working behind the scenes to destroy the Jews, God has an Esther rising up right in the middle of everything that's going on. I was saying with someone today about pastoring, how sometimes it's so difficult to pastor. It's not the message, it's not the preaching, it's people. Learning to understand people. In the midst of all that she is, here is a Haman. There's always someone in ministry that is always after you, is always after something. You go to a ministry and the negativity, or you hear something, or you do something. There's always an enemy trying to get you to get out of the promises of God, to derail the promises of God in your life, to let you miss God by throwing in the towel and saying, you know what, I just quit because they don't understand me, whatever. And Esther had gotten to that place. She said, I'm not going before the king. He could take my head off. No one goes before the king unless he calls them. And so right away, fear began to creep in. Mordecai comes in to tell her, wait a minute. Just suppose God brought you here for just that reason. Don't you think that he can keep you? You've been prepared for such a time as this. Let's look at that. Let's see what God is having to say. And she said, well, if you all fast with me, if you all walk this walk with me, we're going to make it happen. And that's what they did. What if you have been carefully held and reserved in a place for this? Suppose God kept you in a place for that, just for that particular reason, on that job that you don't like, or in a place you're not happy with, but you just for some reason in your inners, you say, you know what? I'm here for a purpose. I really have an assignment here. Maybe I'm here to pray for somebody who will battle cancer. Maybe I'm here to pray for somebody who's going through. There must be a reason for me to be here. Sometimes we don't get all the answers up front. Sometimes we don't know what God is up to, but there's a reason. Don't allow your lack of recognition and limited use cause you to miss opportunities that God wants to use you for now. Don't hold on to the past. Don't let the enemy tell you, well, he hasn't called you, he hasn't used you. No. What is God saying to you in this sovereign act of God, where you may not hear his voice, but you know without a shadow of a doubt, God has called you to do great and mighty things for him? I want you to think about that. I get excited because I'm 67. I still am excited about what's my next. What am God going to use me to do next? After coming back from the retreat this weekend, I was like, okay, God, it's just amazing. What's next? What do you want us to do next? Being excited about life. It's so good to get up and be excited about living. Are you excited about living? Come on, speak back to me. Are you excited about living? Are you excited about seeing the promises of God? Are you ready to walk through the door? Do you believe that you will end the year strong? Do you believe that you have been created for such a time as this? Are you excited about life and living? Man, you got to be. You have to be excited about what God wants for you. You've got to get excited about what God has. Somewhere in your inners, you got to know there's more for you than where you are right now. That he has exceedingly and abundantly more to offer you than where you are right now. You got to get excited about it. And so as I studied the book of Esther over the years, and I saw the life of Esther and how God sovereignly orchestrated her life to go from just an orphan girl to one of the greatest leaders that God could have made. How he orchestrated, how he moved Vashti out. And if you notice, he didn't kill Vashti. He gave her a bill of divorcement. So she had to sit there and watch Esther come and take her place. But God orchestrated because there were lives to be saved. There was a nation to be saved. God is looking out for us. I say it all the time. There is nothing impossible for God to do. And there's nothing that anyone can stop when God is getting ready to bless you. Nothing at all. There's absolutely nothing. And so out of that story, out of that book, began to pen things over 10 years ago. I was in England. My sister-in-law was working on a project. And I was listening to the project. I had a chance to sit with it. And I said, when I come home, I'm going to look at the book of Esther one more time. And I'm going to see what things in there that I can put into a proposal to begin to write so that we can get young women excited about life. Before they used to call them, I believe it's like girls' school, where they come and they are trained in etiquette, how to cross their legs, how to sit when they go out, how to eat properly. They had these schools, and they were. I know they were in England. I know there were places in America, and they were schools that people would go to. And in those schools, they would learn so much about how to go into the real world and function. And so when I began to read about the book of Esther, I said, God, in that year, what could they have taught her in that year that would cause her to evolve into such a wonderful woman that she could be now a great leader? That's the first thing I asked myself. Then, number two, I said, God, you have to help me understand what it is about Esther that you chose her. Do you realize that God has chosen you to do great and mighty things? I do get excited about God. I don't know if I'll ever be a millionaire, billionaire. I don't know about that, but I know I'll always prosper. I know I'll never lack. I know that I'm not going to be in a struggle because I just know God's promise. Do you know what your promises are? Do you know the abundant life that God has promised you? And it doesn't matter where you are today, that this is not your final chapter. Do you know that? Just want to ask you if you do. But along the way, what we've done with Esther's Academy is that we have put together a formula that works. And we have been doing it now for 10 years. Many of our kids are now off to college. For the last 3 or 4 years, we haven't done it because number one, COVID. Number two, having a director that can run the program the way we wanted it run. And so we are coming back to relaunch it in just next Saturday. As a matter of fact, we're coming back to put mentors and things in place for the young people. So it's over 10 years old. So we're getting ready to rebrand and relaunch the Esther's Academy. It's for girls ages 8 to 18. And our hope is that people would come alongside us. It's no cost to the family. We look for sponsors. We get people to sponsor it. We get people to underwrite it. The girls will take trips. They will sit with financial teachers to teach them how to balance a checkbook, how to make a budget. They'll be taught on how to eat at dinner, proper etiquette, which knives to use, which forks to use. They will be taught how to have a resume, how to begin to search for colleges when it's time for colleges. It depends on the age group that they're in. We begin to help them understand life skills, cooking, baking. You don't have to be a master chef, but you should be at least be able to prepare a little meal when you're away at college. You should be able to fix something. You should be able to put a cornbread in the oven, maybe to put some baked chicken in the oven. We have to teach them something. It's critical. Then we talk about beauty. And the lady that's going to be dealing with that, our administrator, Miyoshi Power, will be on in a little bit later. She'll be coming on to talk about beauty. A dress for success, dress for your future, dress for your job, and how to handle money. We want to teach our young people about emergency fund early, not later, not tomorrow, now. It's important. Teaching kids, although we want the name brand things, wouldn't you rather see some money in the bank? When you graduate college, would you not want to be able to buy a house? There are families who purchase homes close to the college and rent them out so their children can have the monies they need to go to college. There's so many things we can teach our children at this Esther's Academy. They're going to take a trip. One of the things we did in our final year, on our final one before this one, we took them on a trip to New York. We took all the kids on a day trip to New York. They left on Friday. They got to sightsee Friday night. They got to sightsee on Saturday. Went to one of the local churches there with me, and then we left after church to head back home. It was exciting for them. They loved the lights. They loved everything they could see. They were chaperoned, and it was beautiful. So they need to see trips. I would love to see them go to Washington and see the Bible Museum. Some of the other things that are necessary for girls to know that's there. There's adults that has never been to the museums. There's adults who have never seen some of our great buildings and great museums. They just never go. So those are some of the things that we do. We assist the parents and become a community that help them see their purpose and their destiny. It's so important for them to know that. And so we are relaunching it and rebranding it. And Leah Thomas is going to be our director, and Miyoshi Pablo will be our administrator. And we have Veronica Addison, we have Dora Powell, we have Dr. Galloway, Elder Barb, different people that are going to come alongside them and teach different classes in the process. So it's going to be a good program for them. We bring kids, we'll get them in from wherever they are. We'll pick them up if we have to, because if the parents don't have transportation, we don't want any child overlooked at all. We want to make sure every child is covered. So out of this book, we just came up with a program and a plan that young ladies need to know how critical it is for them to learn all about life now, dating, boundaries. There's so much that they will learn in this class: hygiene, hair, beauty, makeup. What's too much makeup? Today we have people that wear lashes and you can't even see their eyes. There's too much. There's modesty. There's nothing wrong with lashes, but if I can't see your eyes, something is wrong with that picture. But we do it because everybody else do it. But is it appropriate? What about going for a job interview with blue hair, green hair? That's not going to work. We've got to make sure that we carry ourselves up. We get pushed behind the 8 ball anyhow. So why make it more difficult for us to go through the doors of corporate America because we refuse to change, to evolve, to pivot, to shift into the things that God's called us to be? We go to work and it doesn't last. That's what it's called, on a finishing schools. And they focused on that. They focused on the etiquette. They focused on all of those things. Well, it's not a finishing school because it's more than that. This is more of financing, and this is more of boundaries. This is more of talking to you about life. We call it life skills program. Mental health. How are you? When do you go out for dinner? Do you take your phone and put it down? Do you put the phone down? Or are you one of those people at the table while we're eating? We're just on the phone. You don't have time to talk to anybody, because this is how most of the time. Go to a restaurant today and you'll see this. They're out on a date, but this is the posture. They don't know how to turn off the phone. They don't know how to put it away and say, I'm talking. Teaching our people how to hold a conversation. Oh, this is the biggest enemy of this generation, because what happens, the kids are learning to spend more time in that than making friends, meeting people. And on this, you don't have to really get involved with friends. You don't even know them. You just talk with them on the phone. So what we're trying to do today is get kids involved in building relationships, communication, putting the phone down, speaking to one another, respecting their parents, answering their parents with proper behavior, that not talking back, not saying certain things when they're called, yes, ma'am. Teaching your children when they enter a room, speak to adults, good morning, good afternoon. You don't walk in the room like everybody owes you something. It's all of that. So that we have a generation that has no manners. They don't speak. They don't do any of that. But we want, when they're finished with the Esther's Academy, they can be excellent people to hire. Colleges will like them because they're properly rounded. They're global thinkers. They're global minded. It's so important. Someone just asked me tonight when I came into the studio, they said, what about it for women? Because there's some women that are past 18 that would like to do this program. Listen, if we have enough women that ask for it, we'd be glad to do it. I love it. I love, like Dr. Galloway said, it's a modern day finishing school. It really just helps you put on the finishing touches on preparation for college, preparation for corporate work, preparation for life skills. Even if you don't go to college, do you have a trade? What are you going to do? You see, you don't want to go to college and come out of college graduating with a hobby. You want something that's going to make you money. You want something that is going to be productive and useful all the days of your life. And sometimes you have to get to the place where you say, okay, I am going to go to school, or I'm going to go to a trade school or to a college, but I'm going for something that I can utilize and use for the rest of my life. Critical, very, very critical. I have friends who have gone to college and have great degrees and they don't make any money. They haven't made any money, but they have a lot of degrees, but they don't have any money. They're not making any money. So why invest all that money in education and then not use it? That's what is important. So you've got to know, what do you want to do? Are you somebody that's a cosmetologist, a painter, a carpenter? What it is that you want to do? If you don't feel like you're a college graduate, or you want to go through 4 years of college, or go on to masters and doctorate, if you don't feel that's for you, you don't have to feel ashamed. There are great people who have never been to college, and there are people who have great trades that are excellent in what they do. And tonight I want you to meet one of those ladies that are so excellent in what she does. And that's Miyoshi Powell. She's going to join us tonight regarding Esther's Academy. A few weeks ago, you met Leah, who's the director of Esther's Academy. She's worked in social services for many, many years, worked with young people in different social service areas in the city of Pittsburgh, and a lot of the women and young girls. And so she's our director. She's the person that's going to begin to pull it all together. And we have tonight with us Miyoshi Powell, who's the administrator, who's going to make sure that certain things, the books are in place. And she's also going to teach on beauty and all of that stuff. So help me ask her to join us tonight. Miyoshi's in the studio somewhere, and she's joining us tonight.
Hi.
Miyoshi,
Hello, Pastor. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad that you're here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what got you to where you wanted to be a part of Esther's Academy. Tell us a little bit about you.
Um, well, where do I start? God is good with this because He had given me a vision some years ago, back when I was 22. And the vision He had given me was for young women. I didn't know what to do with it at all. I was young myself. But when he gave me the vision to help young women to, number one, love on themselves, because I was one of those young women at the time who didn't know my worth, who didn't love myself, who didn't, it was just so many things that I've went through. So in that, I believe the Lord is calling me to help young women to see the beauty in who they are, not just on the outside, but the inside of what God created them to be. And over the years of, I've always wanted to do hair. So since I was a child, since I was 6 years old, I wanted to be a beautician. And my grandmother was a beautician, and my great grandmother. So it's in my blood. But I knew that the Lord had given me this gift to impart into others at a young age. At a young age. And I'm just thankful for where He's brought me now. I've done 5 hair shows. I've done international shows. I have birthed the ministry doing hair in all this time. I wanted a salon, and God said no years ago. And I'm like, why, God? Why don't you? He said, well, it wasn't my purpose, but it was the vehicle to my purpose. So I'm grateful for all the lives that I have touched in this time. I've been doing hair 27 years now. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful for where the Lord has brought me.
So, what will your role be to the girls? What do you find yourself wanting to tell? What did you learn? I know here, but what is it that you learn regarding beauty and regarding loving yourself that you want to share with these young ladies?
Something really important about loving yourself. You don't really, as a young woman, you don't really know how to love yourself when you don't have people to support you or pour into you or affirm you of who you are. When you're hearing, you're being called all different kinds of names but your name, and no one's pouring in the love of God, no one's pouring in the word of God into you, any of that. And that wasn't what I had. My mom did pour into me what she knew, but there wasn't any mentors around that could teach me my worth. I grew up kind of in some hard times and had to learn a lot through my experience in the world. But thank God for women like you and other women who've come along in my life over the years that has shown me how to be a young lady, how to be a woman, how, not only being a young lady, but how to be. Let me say it like this: what we hope to pour into the ladies is to teach them how to be daughters of the Most High.
Mm.
Not just a woman to be married, not just a woman for all of this, but how are we to become daughters of the Most High God? Because if we don't understand that, we don't understand our value from that perspective, then we don't have much of anything.
So what age group do you plan to teach, Miyoshi? What's the age group that you're planning to reach with the cosmetics, the beautician, the beauty, and that kind of thing? What age groups are you thinking that will really be open to this?
I would like to interact with all age groups from 8 to 18 because it starts young. You have when you pour into someone young, they can kind of keep it with them as they get older. So I'm hoping to work in all the age groups from 8 to 18. I believe the Lord has something.
And how long is the program going to be? And maybe give us an idea of some of the things that you all are looking forward to teaching and in the program. And what is the geographical location that you all are trying to reach? Can people from the inner city come to the program? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, it's the inner city can come, people from all over. There is no restriction on um, the young women that can come here. You can be a member of Jubilee or a non-member. It's open to all young women to come and be poured into. The program is running for 7 months. Um, and in this time, we're hoping it's every second Saturday of the month that we're going to meet with the young ladies. And there is a strict curriculum that we will follow. And some of the things that we hope to talk about with the young ladies is we speak about hygiene, we speak about um, finances, how to have some domestic skills and all that. But most of all, we want to pour into them the love of God. We want to prepare them for kingdom. Hopefully, they prepare their mindsets for purpose, help them discover their purpose. Because without a vision, the Bible says the people will perish. So we want to help them um, understand what they were created for, what their purpose is here.
Tell me something. I see a generation of young women, Miyoshi, that even now are battling mentally. A lot of them are battling mentally regarding their gender identity, regarding loving on themselves. What do you see as you look at this generation coming to us? How do you think we're going to reach them with all that's going on after COVID? It seems as though many of them are battling mentally. There seem to be just an uprise on mental illness anymore in our young people. Depression,
Mhm.
oppression, that kind of thing.
Yes. I think, truthfully, I think a lot of people have been dealing with mental illnesses for a long time, just haven't had an opportunity to speak about it. And the pandemic at this point has kind of closed in on a lot of people that it now is coming out. And as a young person, you hear a lot of young people talking about suicide and all of these different things, not wanting to live and not wanting all of that stuff. And I believe we have to pour into them the love of God. The Bible says that we are to love on them. That's one of the first commandments is love. And that's what a lot of the young people are not receiving is love. Their parents want to be their best friends. They don't want to. You have to create boundaries. Children want boundaries. And when you give them boundaries, that's a form of love. And when you create boundaries, you create a boundary, but then you pour into them and tell them why. It's important that children know why this is being done. If they don't know why, then they're just going to react instead of responding. So it's important for us to first love on these children and let them know how important they are to not just the world, but to God, the creator who created them in the first place.
Yeah. Now, Miyoshi, now this is a question I want to throw at you. Growing up, we were taught how to cook. I don't know. I'm sure because I know you're a wonderful cook. I was taught how to cook. We have a generation that have no clue how to make a basic meal. I'm talking about putting some chicken in the oven, baking a potato, putting some vegetables. We have a generation that is clueless is
Yeah.
even putting a meal together. How will Esther Academy be able to help them understand that, even though you might go off to college, you've got to learn some basic things. Or you'll be eating oodles and noodles for the whole 4 years. But how can we make some basic meals that's good on your budget? And
Yeah.
even making meals like spaghetti or things that will last. How can we help this generation? Because I know some of the young people, and I say to them, "Have you cooked?" They have never washed dishes. They have never cooked a meal, and they're 2 years away from college, and they have not done any of this.
That's because this generation is spoiled and they are entitled. They have this entitlement that they think, they don't have to learn these things, but it's important. And we will bring in people, we will share with them the knowledge that we have, some little quick meals that we have done. Leah and I both have families, so there's little things that we can do. We can teach them some quick things, but overall, we're going to bring someone in to help teach them how to make little meals and little desserts and things like that. To help get them through, because it's important. If you're home and your mom's at work or your dad's at work, what are you going to put it? How do you heat? What if there's nothing to heat up?
Now, what about if any of the kids talk to you about your career? Now, you have been in the hair business and you're a master at what you do. I have Nikki, I have Kathy, and I have you. I have some great beauticians around me. And how are you going to be able to tell them when they ask, Miyoshi, is it even worth going to cosmetology school? Is there money in it? Because there's so many beauticians. What would your response be to them?
My response would be absolutely. Definitely go. Number one, there is a lot of money in it. You can make as much as you want and you can make as little as you want. But it's important to get the education, because what people fail to realize as a stylist, you're not just doing their hair. You're not just curling or putting color or cutting, or you can kill someone in your chair with the wrong products. It's important to get the knowledge. You can have something go wrong that's very detrimental to people. So if you don't have this knowledge and understanding that medication is a chemical, so when you put color on your hair and you take medication and your hair turns green or purple or another color that you didn't want, you have to take those things into consideration. You also have to take into consideration um, how you take care of your hair. Are you busy? What type of styling should you get? If you're one that has to be up at 5 a.m. and you have to be to work at 7, you don't want something that you're going to take hours and hours in the mirror to do. You want something that fits your busy schedule, stuff like that. But it's so important. I would urge them to go to school, learn. It's a beautiful thing to know how to take care of you. If no one else is around, how do you take care of you? How do you understand your hair type,
Mhm. Yeah,
what your hair can handle, what your hair cannot handle? You can't go and put a whole bunch of bleach on your hair and
right.
comb it through
And
and
I
these are
think instead of going
mistakes.
to the pharmacy, picking up a box of perm, going home and putting a perm on their hair, losing
Yeah,
hair, breaking out, falling out because it's not washed. That's
right.
something I see happening a lot.
All the time. People do it all the time. And they don't understand that you go to the salon and you get color from the salon. But then later on down the line, you go to the store and buy it and put it on top and wonder why it fell out. Well, because there are metals mixed in with the stuff that you buy. That's why you go to a professional, because the professional can break down what's in this product, not only what's in this product, but it's important to care for your customer. What's your background? How do you take care of yourself? Because if I don't know, have any information on you and how you operate, what medicines you take, medication is key. Medication is key. If someone's on any form of medication, it's important to know that before you treat their hair.
There's another part of beauty I want to talk to you about. Now, this is driving me crazy. Why are these people wearing lashes where you can't see their eyes? You're in the beauty business. You do makeup, you do lashes, you do eyebrows. Why are people wearing eyelashes so long they look like brooms? They look like they can sweep something.
Pastor,
Yeah,
I have
how do we help these young
no.
people get to, well, it's not only young people, some adults I see are doing it. There's got to
Yes.
be a balance, Miyoshi. I mean,
There,
I love lashes, but there's got to be a balance. I was
yeah,
somewhere today and I had to look up on there to kind of say hi because I couldn't see their eyes. I'm like, just sitting out here. That's not appropriate.
it's not. It's not. And you don't need caterpillars on your eye.
You've got a name for it.
Caterpillars for the eyelashes. It's a way to. You still have to see. You still have to drive. You still have to function. But there's a way to beauty. You don't want to overdo it. And a lot of people see these women on TV and on these different shows, and they want to look like that. Well, that's TV. That's entertainment. What about your real life, your everyday life? You want to look presentable when you're going to get a job. You want to look the part. You want to be the part. But and some people will say, oh, it doesn't matter what I. Yes, it does matter what you
That's
wear.
right.
First impressions are everything. So you want to have your hair neat and clean. You want to have your eyelashes together, but it looks as natural as possible. You don't want to pile a bunch of makeup on. You want to look like yourself. But most of all, you want to be sure of who you are. And people get so mixed up in the world and they don't know who they are. They're just trying to look like the world instead of who they are. Discover who you are.
And that's what brought me to all of this is how can we help this generation understand how critical it is for them to have balance.
Hmm.
The Bible talks about moderation, have balance, whether it's your hair, your makeup, whatever it is, but being able to still look elegant, look like a lady.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm looking. Sometimes you look at them and the lashes is going to about fall off in your in you, and the lashes look like it's going to fall. Please don't fall over my food. It's not on properly. They don't have to know how to put it on correctly. It's heavy. It looks like if you back one more time, my suit, just step away a little bit, because they don't know how, and you don't want to embarrass them. So I think in these classes where you all are going to be
Right.
talking about beauty, will that? I just hope that you all have some of those talks that you can be able to say to them. There is a way to wear lashes. There is a way to
Yes.
wear makeup. There's a way to fix your hair that is elegant and that is becoming of you. That way you
Hmm.
don't look like, where are you going? And, this just doesn't want to look like that. But yeah, I had to ask you those questions, Miyoshi, because when I go around and I see the young people walking today, I wonder, God, would a makeup class help them? Would someone be able to tell them,
Yeah.
or you see these people and everybody's got baby hair now. Baby hair is the thing. Baby hair is the thing. They got baby hair all down by the eyelashes. I don't know. Young people go through phases.
Right.
And I see people, they even buy wigs that will give them baby hair all the way down here. And I'm just like, but it don't look right. It needs to be balanced.
No.
Balance is so important.
It
Balance.
is.
Sorry,
It is.
Dora, I had to go there. I mean, it just has to be a balance. And the thing about it, sometimes I want to say, honey, can I help you with that? You want to
Right.
look at it, but there's got to be balance. There's got to be, and we got to be
See.
transparent. That's what Prophet Dora
Yeah.
is saying. It's got to be transparency about what we're doing. But there's got to be balance because so many times you see the kids and it doesn't, or you see kids that are teenagers, but they look like they're 30 and 20 because the
Hmm.
makeup, all of the stuff that the kids are wearing now, they don't even look like teens anymore.
No.
Because they have not been taught the balance or
Yeah.
they want to keep up with their friends. So I'm glad that you all are going to bring some of these topics to the table. And I want to see when we graduate next year, the elegance. I want to see them in their gown. I want to see them hair done. I want to see their makeup. And I want to see them have on even lashes if they want to at a
Yeah.
appropriate age, but show how it's when it's done in balance, how elegant and how pretty they can look when it's done. So thank
Yes.
you for coming on tonight. I know you all are doing an excellent job. I'm too excited about what you all are doing. Had a chance to talk to you about it today. And I talked to Leah, and I know you all are ready. And I really believe that it's going to be a great year for the kids. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.
Listen, I had to talk about all of that because it's happening in this generation. Phones, the lashes, the way we dress, is so appropriate. That's so it is. One of the things that I loved about England and the monarchy is how the queen carried herself with such class. She never changed who she was. When there was time for weddings, there was just a protocol and a dress. Our people don't like to talk about protocol. We don't believe in that. Just leave me as I am or whatever. But there's got to be boundaries and protocol in every church, in every place that we go. And that is so important. And so I pray today that you will call up a family member who has a daughter, invite them to come. They can call 412-795-2116 to register for Esther's Academy. Just leave your name and someone will be in the office tomorrow to get back to you. Number one, we also have cards that you can pass out and invite someone. Those cards will be available tomorrow here at the church, and we can even email it over to you if you'd like to invite someone to come. But it's going to be very productive. It's going to be a good year, and we're looking for teachers to help with the kids. You have to have a clearance in order to teach in the school. But if you have a skill that you would like to share with the kids, please come and speak to Miyoshi, speak to Leah Thomas, ask for them, leave a message to them, leave your number. All teachers must have clearances to work in the Esther's Academy. That's important. Like I said, we don't pay any of the teachers. It's all volunteer. We don't charge any family member. At the end of the 7 months, we have a graduation dinner for them, a gala, where they will be going out to dinner, and they're going to use all of the tools they learned during Esther Academy, their dress, their makeup, how to eat, how to use their knife and fork. They're going to have a wonderful time, and they're also going to get a field trip. We may take a train trip to New York, or we may take a trip to Washington, D.C. That's what we're going to do. I think it's a wonderful thing. And like I said, it's not just open to Jubilees, it's open to everyone. Our teachers come from different places. Our students come from different places. It's about getting the kids to do it so that they can be involved and happy. No, Dr. Corbin, it's not virtual. It's not virtual. They haven't cleared it to be virtual yet, but maybe after this year, we might be able to do it. But we would love to share our program with you, what we're doing here. And if you all would love to do it in Denver, we could partner. We can partner with you to do it in Denver. So reach out to us. We'd love to partner with you to do it because there is a need. There's actually a need for the children to have the Esther's Academy, to have this modern day school that is going to teach them how to walk in life, how to share life. When you go out on a date, put the phone down, get to know the person, get connected. That's what we want you to do. We want to have a great connection, and we want you to be involved in life. Get off the phone. If you go on a date and your friend is on the phone for the whole day, that is not a good sign. We've got to learn to communicate, and we're going to teach you how to begin to be the best and evolve into the best that God wants you to be. All we're doing is investing in the next generation. The next generation need to have a global mindset and learn how to evolve, pivot, and shift as necessary. Thank you for joining me tonight on Let's Talk. I hope I shared something that was a blessing to you. And if you know any teenage girls, invite them to come to Esther's Academy this Saturday. 9:30 is registration, 10 o'clock is the time that they're going to begin to share what Esther's Academy is all about. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you. Call 412-795-2116. Have a great day, everyone.